Hello friends, and welcome back to this course titled as Introduction to Indian Writing in English. Friends, we successfully completed Unit 8 with a very beautiful and very dramatic text that is titled as Train to Pakistan. Friends, in this class, we have to begin with another important text related to Indian writing in English. The name of the text is Untouchable and the writer is Mulk Raj Anand. So today we are starting Unit 9. I hope that as you have tried to understood the text Train to Pakistan, you will take equal interest in this text Untouchable also. Friends, as all of you know that untouchability was one of the problems of Indian society. But for you and me, it was a problem. But the people who belong to that untouchable community, for those people, it was a disaster. They were facing identity crisis in their own country, in their own town, in their own village. The place where they were born and brought up, and their generations were facing this problem of untouchability, this issue of class discrimination. Their class was considered as equal to animals. And thus, when you are reading this text Untouchable, you have to consider yourself related or associated to this untouchable caste, and in this way you would be able to understand the ecstasy of pain which these untouchable people had faced in India. Nobody was there to talk to them. Nobody was there to raise the issues related to their life. So then who is going to speak for them? They themselves were illiterate, unaware, living in the dark ages of identity crisis. When Mahatma Gandhi raised a voice for the support of these untouchable people in India, and he called these people as Harijans, this was the time when in the Indian culture, in the Indian society, the so-called intellectuals started discussion on the, let's say, on the cultural crisis which was happening with these people, the social identity issues and the health issues which these people were facing. I hope that you will put yourself in the shoes of an untouchable, and then you will try to understand the depth of pain which these people has faced in India. But before moving to the plot of this text Untouchable, let us first discuss about the outcome. What are you going to learn after the completion of this text? You would be able to understand the structural outline of the selected text. Well, after the completion of today's class, friends, you will learn that what is the structure of this text, what is the outline of this text, how this text is, let's say, tightly knit into one day span of the character Bakha. Now you may feel surprised that how can a complete novel written on the one day routine of a person, of a character. But friends, the writer has intentionally given only the incidents related to one day. What is the reason for that? Well, you have to understand that if in one day a character, a person from the untouchable community faces so many problems, so much humiliation, let's say so much stress, then if you compare the entire life of an untouchable from the birth to that death, how much problem, how much, let's say, horror, how much torture these untouchable people had faced in India. So, I hope, friends, that with this spirit of being associated with the character, with this spirit of being attached to this community of untouchables, you would be able to understand the pain which these untouchable characters had faced in just one day of their life. So with this note, let us begin discussion on the plot. Untouchable is a novel by Mulk Raj Anand which was published in 1935. Friends, this time before India got independence, the orthodox practices reached to their extent. Mulk Raj Anand in his society was seeing that the common Indians, the upper class Indians, their behavior was just near to the brutal barbarians, and these brutal barbarians are exploiting every day the people who belong to these, let's say, downtrodden communities, untouchable communities, without thinking that they are committing a very big sin. To make these people aware about what crime they are committing every day, what sin they have committed every day, Mulk Raj Anand published this work in 1935. I hope that when people read this work in that year, and maybe even before the independence of India, they might have felt the criticality and the severity of the, let's say, sin which they are committing every day by exploiting the people who are called untouchable or Harijans by Mahatma Gandhi. The story was inspired by his aunt's experience when she had a meal with a Muslim person and was treated as an outcast by his family. Friends, Mulk Raj Anand in his family, in his relation, got motivated from one of the incidents. The incident was that one of his aunt had a meal with a Muslim person, and there was an outrage after that meal. In that outrage, she was treated as an outcast by his family. In the family only, people start hating a person, started, let's say, considering that person as impure. So the situation was very critical. If you are born and brought up in a family in which everyone is exploiting untouchables, although you are an open-minded person, you do not believe in caste and religion, but you have to follow the similar kind of practices. Otherwise, your family will break up all the relationships with you. Please try to understand that how much tense the situation was with such kind of people. Anand's novel Untouchable is a sociological novel, and it appeals to stress on the evils of untouchability by laying the spotlight attention on the miserable situation, combustion, poverty, and decline of an extensive section of Indian society. Well, what not was faced by the people who belonged to this community? They faced poverty. They faced miserable, let's say, health. They faced combustion. They faced the decline of the society, neglection of the society. And thus, all these factors, when clubbed together, create and consider this novel and establish this novel as a sociological novel. Well, friends, this is the novel of the Indian society. This is the mirror of the Indian society. How much, let's say, criticality was there in the society, and thus this stress leads to the evil which an untouchable person has never committed in his life, but he or she has to face the consequences because they were born in a society where all these orthodox practices were happening every day. The plot of this book first revolves around the argument for demolishing caste system. When you begin reading this text, you will find that initially Mulk Raj Anand creates a background where he clears his ideology of abolishing and demolishing caste system from India. Caste system has ruined the harmony in all the communities living in Indian society. Even in the categories who belong to the upper caste, there was discrimination between upper caste and little lower to that upper caste. So the society was completely divided. And the reason behind all those things was the, let's say, the bad influence of caste system. People generally say that the caste system started with a positive identity, but later it became corrupt. Mulk Raj Anand had seen all the negative characteristics of this caste system, and thus he preferred its demolition from the Indian society. It depicts a day in the life of Bakha, a young sweeper who is untouchable due to his work cleaning latrines. Well, this character Bakha, he is a latrine cleaner. He is 18 years old. He is a young chap, full of energy, but full of humiliation as well. So, although he is young, but considered as unclean, considered as unhygienic. Why? Because he cleans latrines every day in his village. Bakha is described as strong and able-bodied, full of enthusiasm, and dreams varying from to dressing like a Tommy in fusion to playing hockey. Well, friends, Bakha is a strong and able-bodied person. He was 18 years old, and as all of you know, that this age is the age of enthusiasm. This age is the age of charm. This age is the age of energy. This age is the age of dreams. But what happened to the dreams of Bakha? Just because he was born in that untouchable community. He wanted to dress like a Tommy. in fusion to playing hockey. He wanted to play hockey. He wanted to, let's say, be in the company of the elite groups of the society. Maybe had he given opportunity to play hockey, he would have been considered as, he would have been, let's say, fallen into the category of national players of hockey in India. We don't know that. But the reality is that no opportunities of growth were provided to the people who were untouchable. And so, although they had characteristics, although they had talent, but in the lack of opportunities, these people were not able to come out of that critical situation. However, his barriers and the fact that he belongs to the lower caste forces him to beg to food, to often face humiliation, and to be at the mercy of the whims of others, high caste Hindus. Well, can you believe, friends, that a human being has to beg food from other human beings? Even after completing the work, he completes all his work on time with the best possible effort, but without any wages. He get no money for that, only food, and that food also he had to beg from those people, the upper caste Hindus. So please understand the intensity of trauma which Bakha had to face every day, every minute, because of his untouchability. The day depicted in the story is a tenacious one for Bakha. Friends, the day was very critical. When the writer Mulk Raj Anand clubs all these incidents together from morning to night in the life of Bakha, Mulk Raj Anand is very objective and very down to earth. It is not that all the incidents are merely illusionary, they are just fake, but they are real. And actually, the people who are untouchable were facing such kind of humiliations, physical, mental, every day. Over the course of the day, he is slapped in public for polluting an upper caste Hindu through an accidental touch, and has food thrown at him by another person after he cleans her gutters. Well, friends, can you believe that Bakha was going somewhere, and somehow, not because of his mistake, because of the mistake of other person, an upper caste, Bakha just touched a person in a public place. That person started shouting that Bakha has polluted him, and the crowd started slapping Bakha. So much physical torture, so much humiliation an untouchable has to face. He needs to be always aware when he is out of his house and when he is moving on a public road. He has to be aware that he must not touch knowingly or unknowingly to any person belonging to the upper caste. There is one more incident suggesting the animal conditions of Bakha. He completes his work of cleaning the gutter in a house, and then the lady who was the owner of that house, she throws the food in front of him, just like we throw a chapati in front of a dog. We can understand when we read about that incident in detail during the text, we will understand that these untouchable people had the stature in the Indian society like that of street dogs. We do not, let's say, imagine that they were living such kind of humiliating conditions. And Bakha had no other choice but to pick the food which was thrown towards him and then eat that food. His sister is molested by a priest. He is blamed for an injury received by a young boy following a melee after a hockey match, and he is thrown out of his house by his father. Well, friends, there are few more incidents of humiliation which happened with Bakha. In one of the incidents, his sister is molested by a local priest. The name of the priest was Pandit Kalinath. Now that priest, he calls the girl to clean the temple, and then he wanted to make physical relationship with her. And when the girl refused to do that, he started beating her, saying that she had polluted him. When Bakha came to know about this incident from the mouth of his sister, he was not in a condition to do anything to punish that priest because he had no choice. He had to live in that community only, in that village only. There is another incident when Bakha is gifted a hockey stick by one of the characters, and then there is a young boy in the story who blames Bakha that Bakha has injured him. Although Bakha not even think in his dreams of injuring a person, but as the reality of the Indian society, untouchables had no voice. They had mouth, but they had no voice. So they cannot speak for their support. They cannot express their ideas. They cannot explain their point of view. And just because of all these things, Bakha was again beaten by a group of people. When Bakha comes back to his house, he is abused by his father also. Father was calling Bakha as a person with no use. He always tried to humiliate his son, torture his son, and demotivate his son, having no characteristics of a good latrine cleaner. Just imagine that, is this the role a father should play for the better, let's say, upbringing of the child? But the reality is something different. In the context of the untouchable community, the father expected that Bakha should behave in a manner like a good latrine cleaner. Just imagine the condition of those people in the Indian society. Finally, towards the end of the novel, 3 probable solutions are recommended by Anand. The 3 possibilities that are unveiled in front of Bakha. Well, friends, Mulk Raj Anand has not written this novel for just entertain or to feel sympathetic towards these untouchable people. Rather, Mulk Raj Anand want to give us solution of their problem. And through this novel, he has suggested 3 probable solutions, 3 recommendations. Let us read about them one by one. The foremost response is articulated through a Christian missionary who is in the search of a distressed outcasts, preparing them to change their religion from Hinduism to to Christianity? Well, friends, in one part of the story, there is a character who is a priest. Now, when Baka meets him, this priest tried to change the religion of Baka from Hinduism to Christianity, saying that this is the only way to come out of this torture. But friends, Baka was a person, although humiliated because of Hinduism, but he did not want to leave his religious practices. Can you imagine such kind of religion intensity or the passion or the determination towards religion in any person in the present society? Baka was humiliated because of the, let's say, the Hindu religion and the orthodox practices, but he refuses to leave his religion in that condition also. The second comes from the teachings of Gandhi, who calls for the freeing Harijans. Well, the second solution, friends, there is one scene in the story when Baka goes to the railway station. After hearing this news that Gandhiji is coming from a train and he is going to address the local people, the train stops, Baka goes there, and Gandhiji was talking about Harijans in his speech. He was saying that these untouchables must be called Harijans. Harijans means the people of God. Hari is the God, and these Harijans, these untouchables, are the representatives of the God. So they should not be treated like animals, rather they should be treated like gods. So this was the second solution which was given by Mulk Raj Anand in this novel. And the third is the flush toilets, a mechanism that would make his caste unnecessary. Anand comes down firmly in favor of the third. Well, friends, as you know that India was very backward in that time, and there were no flush toilets, but had they been introduced into Indian society from European, then there will be no need of cleaning latrines with the help of a human being. Automatically through the flush toilets, the waste material will be transferred to the sewerage pipes, and thus this will improve the cultural social condition of these untouchables. This was the solution, friends, which was most liked and preferred by Mulk Raj Anand in this novel. In the novel, Gandhi's speech condemns the caste system and urges the people to follow his example of non-violent protest. Friends, like I told you that when Gandhiji gave his speech, he was in the favor of a non-violent protest. He wanted these people, he expected these people to protest against the, let's say, wrong things which are going for them. He expected these people to raise a voice against the problems which are happening with them. And in this way, Gandhi condemned the caste system from the Indian society. Baka is enthused by the speech, but does not know enough to determine whether Gandhiji's suggestions are naive. Well, friends, Baka was an illiterate guy, ignorant guy. So when Baka heard the message of Mahatma Gandhi, he was not able to understand it completely. He didn't know that whether it is practical or not to apply, let's say, to abolish the caste system from India. He himself became confused. After the speech, Baka overhears two educated men, a poet and a lawyer, debating the merits of Gandhi's speech. After the completion of Gandhi's speech, Bakha leaves that place. At a place in between, he hears a discussion of a lawyer and a poet. They were talking about the merits and demerits of Gandhi's speech. The lawyer believes that Gandhi's aims are childish and irrational. Well, friends, these two people, they don't know that Bakha is listening to them. The lawyer was saying that Gandhi's aims are childish and irrational. Childish because caste system cannot be abolished, and irrational because these people who belong to the minor communities, the lower communities, it is their duty to clean the toilets and do the work which they are doing since ages. So the lawyer was in a, let's say, in a idea of same kind of pattern which need to be followed in the society. Long-standing traditions are rarely overturned, and he believes that the caste system will endure despite protest for reforms. Well, friends, this person believed that it is a long tradition of the exploitation of these lower caste people. So it cannot be overturned. It cannot be removed from the society. He believed that the caste system will endure despite protest for reforms. This lawyer was in the opinion that caste system is basically the supporter of the reforms. So why should we remove caste system from the Indian society? Caste system is good and it is helpful in the upliftment of the society. On the other hand, there was a poet also talking to the lawyer. The poet believes that the barbarism of the caste system will be eliminated, particularly in light of the fact that the flushing toilet is remote to be coming to their town. Well, friends, the poet was in the favor of abolishing these barbaric practices related to caste system of India. The poet suggested that when flush toilets will be introduced into the Indian society, all these problems will be solved. So, the poet was more rational to this idea as compared to the lawyer. Once the people have flushing toilets, there will be no need for the untouchables to dispose the town's refuse, which would require a rethinking of their role and duty to society. Well, friends, poet believed that when this work will be done through machines, through flush toilets, then this work will automatically be transferred to some other thing. Then these people who belong to the untouchable community, they have to find some other work. Their role will be changed. They have to rethink about their role. And in this way, the duty of the society will be to give them a new role to play. And thus, their condition will automatically improve. The author's experience is an Indian, and the fact that Untouchable was written while the caste system was firmly in place give the novel an authenticity and accuracy that make it easy to empathize with Bakha and his family. Well, friends, if we talk about Mulk Raj Anand, Mulk Raj Anand had lot of experiences as an Indian, and thus he know that untouchables are at a position in the caste system of India where there is no ray of hope. And these people can only come out from this condition if people will feel empathized from Bakha and his family and other people who are untouchables. Untouchable is a unique opportunity for readers to experience the plight of the victims of caste system. Well, friends, when we read about this, let's say, concept of untouchability, we feel that these people are the victims of caste system. Not one person has done crime against them, but the entire system of caste is responsible for their, let's say, pitiable condition. At the same time, the story identifies the complexity of Indian identity after the Great War as India emerges from post-colonialism to globalism. Well, friends, you know that India got independence in 1947, but before that, India was a colonial country. And during the First World War, even after the First World War, India was in the similar kind of conditions. So in this post-colonial state, India need to compete with the globalized world, and that can only happen if they, let's say, start practicing the new flush toilet, let's say, inventions. Let us now talk little bit about the writer Mulk Raj Anand. Mulk Raj Anand was born on 12th December 1905 and he died in 28th September 2004. He was an Indian writer in English, notable for his depiction of the lives of poorer castes in traditional Indian society. Well, friends, Mulk Raj Anand was very close to these people. He had seen their condition and he wanted to become a voice of these, let's say, downtrodden people in the Indian community. One of the pioneers of Indo-Anglican fiction, he together with R.K. Narayan, Ahmad Ali and Raja Rao was one of the first India-based writer in English to gain an international readership. He grabbed the attention of the international readers because he raised these issues which were never addressed before. Anand is admired for his novels and short stories which have acquired the status of classics of modern Indian English literature. Well, same is the case applies to this novel also, friends. This novel, Untouchable, is the classic of modern Indian English literature. It was the time of modernism, and you know that this novel, Untouchable, is not only relevant in 1935 but in the present century also. They are noted for their perceptive insight into the lives of oppressed and for their analysis of impoverishment, exploitation and misfortune. Well, all these things, friends, were associated with the personality of these untouchables. They were impoverished, they were exploited, they were misfortunate, and they needed some voice in support of them. Anand is also noted for being among the first writers to incorporate Punjabi and Hindustani idioms into English and was a recipient of the civilian honor of Padam Bhushan. Friends, Padam Bhushan is one of the biggest awards into Indian society. And Mulk Raj Anand was the one who won this for his contribution for the, let's say, upliftment and the change in the Indian society. Friends, still no one speak about these people, how their condition is going to change. The same ideology, keeping in mind, Mulk Raj Anand wrote this novel Untouchable, and thus in the only 1 day span of the life of Bakha, we would be able to understand the intensity of pain, the intensity of torture which these untouchables had faced in the Indian community for many hundred years. I hope that now you are able to understand the outline and the structure of this novel Untouchable written by Mulk Raj Anand. That is all in the discussion about the plot of this novel. I hope that you have understood the complete, let's say, structure of the novel. We will be coming in the next lecture with a new aspect of this novel, Untouchable, written by Mulk Raj Anand. That is all for today. Thank you so much.